So this well-known artist and YouTuber invited me to participate in an epic art battle against pro artists, and I won? Huh? Okay. Let's go back to the beginning. April 8th, 2025, 12:55 p.m. I get ready for a call hosted by the YouTuber 1000, an artist I had been inspired by and following for years. No big deal. To make things more nerve-wracking, there were two other pro artists coming to this call as well, Pape Ink and Felix Schlater. The purpose of this call? To lay the ground rules for an epic art battle between the four of us.
Are you guys ready for an epic remaking classic artwork battle?
Ready?
Ready. After spinning some prompt wheels, the rules were set. Each artist had to remake an artwork from the 1600s and include a deer and a shell somewhere in their piece. And with that, we were off on our own. What have I just gotten myself into? We're going on a road trip to find some inspiration. I thought I'd head to the museum to scout for some 1600s artwork, but ended up getting a little lost on the way. They fooled us. The GPS has fooled us.
Then turn left.
You had one job. Where is it? Oh, there is the hawk. Oh, there's two of them. Do either of you know where I can find the museum? No. They don't know. I mean, they do know, they're just gatekeeping. After shaming the GPS enough, it eventually pulled through and brought us to my destination, the Harvard Art Museums. By the time I got here, they were almost closed, but that's not about to stop me from accomplishing my mission. Alright, visitor's guide, the maps. Oh, yes, Europe, 17th century, bingo, floor 2. I thought I didn't know anything about 1600s art until I looked it up and realized it was the Baroque period of European art history, which I am still severely lacking in knowledge about. Could that be? I think I'm seeing Baroque on the other side. But I do know it was known for being highly opulent and dramatic, often depicting these epic stories in these highly realistic styles. Oh my god, a little violent. But hey, maybe that's okay. Let's keep going, let's keep looking. It's also the century with some really famous artists that even someone as undereducated in art history as I am can recognize, like Rembrandt, Vermeer, Gentileschi, Paul Rubens. Not the Pee Wee Herman's one, but like the other one. Got some Paul Rubens, 1600s. Oh my, these horses are looking very concerned. So wait, is this like a horse mermaid? I'm here for it. Turns out, horse mermaids are a thing. It's called a seahorse, or hippocampus. Not to be confused with the seahorse, which is also called hippocampus. Not to be confused with this part of the human brain, which is also called a hippocampus. Because apparently, it looks like a seahorse. But it doesn't look like a seahorse. Huh. This art history thing is really putting a strain on my hippocampus over here. This museum is my good luck charm, because the first time I ever came here ended up being kinda life-changing. A while back, I drew this statue I found at this museum in a YouTube short, and it went viral, pushing my channel from 45,000 subscribers to over 100,000 in just a couple weeks. And that inspired me to make another short about my Silver Play Button award and my journey on YouTube. And I emailed that to 1000, along with a thank you letter for being one of the channels that inspired me the most the last few years. I did not expect him to read it. I just wanted to give thanks to the YouTubers who helped me become the artist and storyteller I am today. But just a couple hours later, I get a reply that he not only read it, he checked out my work and asked if I wanted to be in an art battle on his channel. To which I replied with all the cool composure in the world. Are you kidding? Hell yes! I'd love to do a battle sometime, it'd be an honor. Let's go! Fire emoji. So of course, I had to come back here to revisit Mr. Longfellow and Edmonia Lewis, an incredible sculptor and artist from the 19th century. I might have to talk about her in a video at some point, but for now, definitely look her up. And even though I did not find a 1600s artwork on this trip that connected with me enough to want to remake it, hopefully by being here, the good luck of this place will rub off on me again. Because considering the pro level of my competition, I'm really gonna need it. Oh my gosh, I found it. After a bit of scrolling on the internet, I finally landed on a piece that spoke to me, The Drawing Lesson by Jan Steen. Among all the epic, dramatic pieces from the Baroque era, this one stood out like a peaceful, mundane haven. Just an everyday scene of life. One I definitely connect with as an artist. There was also something about the visual composition that just rubbed my creative nugget. It had this clear sense of depth. Foreground, middle ground, background. Like you could just walk right through the painting. And that's when I got a pretty out-of-the-box idea. I had been saving this shadow box for over 4 years. It was planned to be my 50,000 subscriber play button. I was gonna make a custom one, but we ended up blowing past that milestone so fast. So I now have an actual silver play button. This battle couldn't have been a more perfect substitute for this shadow box. The idea is to recreate the depth of the original painting physically by breaking down the painting into sections, painting them on boards, cutting them out, and layering them up like a 3D puzzle. The most similar project I've ever done to this was my 10,000 subscriber play button, and that was pretty simple by comparison. Considering the complexity of this painting and my limited experience, this was going to be a big risk. We have just about 3 weeks to get the whole artwork finished before the final reveal call, so let's do it. Besides the physical aspect of this piece, I also wanted the actual painting to tell a story that is new while still playing off of the original. My idea is to bring this art studio into the 21st century. I chose one of those quintessential Pinteresty industrial artist lofts for the room and tried to update all the clothing and objects to be things that speak to the modern day while still serving a similar purpose to the original objects. I dressed our main teacher man in a beanie and a hoodie, aka the 21st century working artist uniform. And I mean, I don't know much about historical Dutch fashion, but that low-key looks like a 17th century beanie to me. Now, there is a little matter of a deer and a shell, however, and I could just paint those in somewhere and call it a day, but once again, we gotta go the extra mile here, and I was just looking for another excuse to get out of the studio. We are here for shell research. Very important. These are probably the completely wrong outfit for the beach, but it's kind of cold still. It's the middle of spring. It's not super warm yet. We're stepping on the beach. Stepping on the beach. The moment we got shell as one of the extra prompts for this challenge, I immediately knew I wanted to somehow incorporate a real seashell. I didn't know how, but I figured it would add a bit of an unexpected wow factor. I actually went on this beach trip before I made the sketch, and the plan was to just let the material inspire me. I gotta get on top of this. Gotta roll it. Oh, I'm an artist.
I'm a doctor, not an escalator.
I collected a bit more than I knew I would need just to give myself the brainstorming options, but everything I don't use will be brought back to the beach the next time I go. So I'm researching shadow box art, ooh, that's sick, to help me get an idea of how to approach this concept of creating this 3D effect. Oh, that's so creative. Because it definitely takes like a type of thinking that I'm not used to when it comes to art. Oh, I love this. This is so cute. It's more akin to like engineering, I feel like. So with my piece, I think I'm going to have this is in the most foreground and probably this, like these two pieces. Then second layer is the group of people with the desk. Layer 3 is the curtain. I'm not entirely sure how to deal with this wall. Like, is the wall part of the background or does it also pop out somehow? After literal hours of staring at this sketch, trying to break it down mentally, I still had a ton of unanswered questions on how to pull off this 3D effect. But sometimes you just gotta start doing stuff and figuring it out as you go. For material, I figured I'd need something sturdy that would hold its shape even after being painted and cut into pieces. So I decided to use these boards from the back of paper pads that I had saved. And since it was my first time ever painting on this material, I decided to start with the frontmost layer of the painting since it would take the least amount of time. This way, if it completely failed, I'd still have time to pivot this whole project into a different direction. This is my backup shell in case putting the physical shells into this piece doesn't work. At least I have some shell in there. I think it helps as an artist to connect with whatever it is you're creating. So of course, I had to do a deep dive into this painting and into its artist, Jan Steen. And what can I say about my Dutch boy other than he had a sense of humor, which was a rarity among artists in this era. I mean, just look at these self-portraits of other famous artists from this time, and now look at my boy Jan. He just went full belly laugh, double chin out, loud and proud, let's go. He's most famously known for painting these busy, lively household scenes, so much so that there is apparently a saying in Dutch to this day which goes, "En huishouden van Jan Steen." I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, I really tried. Which translates to a Jan Steen household and is used to refer to a messy and chaotic house. His paintings depicted everyday people partying and having a good time, and usually some humorous questionable activities like kids partaking in things they shouldn't be while their parents aren't looking, and adults getting a little too tipsy and leaning into questionable choices. But under this humor, he also wove in a lot of deep symbolism and narrative about morals, a reminder of how our behaviors have consequences. And he might have been speaking from personal experience, because word on the street was Mr. Steen liked to party. People at the time rumored that his paintings may have mirrored his own lifestyle, but there's no proof. And keeping to his humorous ways, he frequently put himself in his paintings in self-deprecating ways, like being a drunk or a purveyor of debauchery. But when I look at his work, and mind you, I'm diving fully into personal feelings now, not backed by research, I can't help but feel a sort of unconditional love for the human condition radiating from these paintings. Because the people are shown with their flaws on full display. He's literally pointing them out, but not in a judgmental, scolding, or fearful way, but more like the way a parent looks at their kid, stumbling and making mistakes, not listening to advice, knowing exactly the kind of consequences the kid is in for, but also knowing that their behavior is just a part of their nature. Almost like Mr. Steen is saying, hey, we all know where our vices lead, but we're human, we're messy, we're stupid, and there's a humorous beauty in that. Alright, so this is dry, and I'm going to attempt to cut it out now. Like, this is quite thick. I don't know how I'm gonna cut through it with finesse. Why don't I have a cutting machine? There's gotta be a better way to do this. Alright, I found an awl, and it seems to be working if I just punch holes every few centimeters. I never thought I'd find myself stabbing my artwork. Honestly, I feel like if I had a chisel, this would probably work better. Is there a better way with the tools that I have? I don't think so, though. I think this is the only way. Oh, there's just so much more to do. After stabbing this thing for what felt like 3 years, I was eventually victorious. Yeah! I did it! It looks so cool. I really gotta get myself some chisels, because this really feels like working through a little piece of wood. Oh, Zaccy, do I hear another excuse to get out of the studio? Why, yes, I do. Gotta look for the woodworking aisle. Ooh, tempting. Wood burners would need wood chisels. Oh, chisels. That's really expensive. Aha. I guess these are technically not chisels since they clearly say knives on the packaging. I'm not a woodworker, so I don't really know the difference. It looked chisel-esque enough to work for my purpose. And the different shapes definitely came in handy for cutting around all the little nooks and crannies. Equipped with my new tools and with the success of the first piece, I felt confident enough to forge ahead with this whole 3D idea and tackle the most complex and time-consuming part of the piece, the midsection with all of the characters. I ended up keeping the bulk of the details of this piece in this layer, but to add some additional 3D pop, I recreated some of the various objects with watercolor paper and glued them on top to make them stick out a bit more. And speaking of those objects, we've already talked about Jan Steen, the artist, and what he was most famous for, but we haven't really talked about the drawing lesson itself and the objects within it, which holds some very interesting narratives. Turns out this piece is actually quite special. Special enough to be the only single painting among the hundreds Steen created to have inspired an author to write an entire book about it, called The Drawing Lesson, written by John Walsh. This book was actually a key research material for me. I couldn't have lucked out more in my painting choice. But the funny thing that really makes this painting special is that it's not funny. There's no debauchery, no belly laughs, no kids with objects. It's a very straight-faced painting. The only other times I found Steen do this was when he was either painting real-life people, because you know, probably not a good idea to poke fun at your neighbors, or scenes with a religious context. Steen was Catholic himself, so it only makes sense he would want to depict these things more seriously. But the drawing lesson doesn't contain any real people, nor is it an outwardly religious painting. painting. So the fact that he went so stoic and respectable with it, I think says a lot about his feelings towards the subject matter. He was an artist, of course, so maybe all he was trying to do was say, hey, guys, look, respect my job. It's a respectable profession. But when you dig into the symbolism of the objects in the room, it goes a lot deeper. For one, I discovered something called vanitas, which was a trendy motif that was going around the Netherlands at the time, where painters would often depict these specific objects, things like skulls, hourglasses, and candles, which were meant to symbolize the transience of life. Basically, everything in life is fleeting. We're all gonna die someday, so all of our personal pleasures, ambitions, wealth, fame are temporary and a bit meaningless. Low-key depressing. And these vanitas objects can be found in the drawing lesson, especially in the bottom right corner. Another standout detail is the girl. Apparently, she's wearing a super swanky outfit for this century. Like, she rich. She would not have been a typical artist's apprentice, but more likely someone from a noble family, perhaps here to learn the skill of drawing as some kind of high-class hobby to have, rather than to become a working artist like the boy would have been. And then finally, there's this hanging Putto baby sculpture. And jury's out on what exactly this means. It could just be chalked up to random reference objects an artist would have in his studio, but in researching other paintings of this era, I learned that these Putto babies often symbolized divine love, or even the omnipresence of God permeating through a situation. And I thought it was kind of interesting that this object was hanging right over this act of drawing and teaching. Perhaps Steen was alluding to the idea that creating or passing on knowledge is a godly act of love? I don't know. And it's possible Steen didn't really know for sure either. In John Walsh's book, he concludes that the painting is most likely meant to be a bit open-ended and up for interpretation, which leaves room for me to connect with it in my own way. And after all of this research, one story really jumped out and kind of gave me chills because of how I personally relate to it. The way I see it is, here's this working artist in his studio, and he seems to be doing pretty well for himself. He's got that fashionable mustache, tons of props, feeling good. He's in the middle of making his own art in the background, but he's also teaching these kids. Now, historically at this time, artists would have been doing this for extra income, but the vanitas objects make it feel a bit deeper than that. Like it's saying, hey, you know, your personal success or fame, it's all temporary. But if you take this opportunity you've been given to pass on your knowledge, your creative spirit will live on in others. Being a social media artist in the 21st century definitely calls back to vanitas. Everything is fleeting. One minute you're going viral, the next you get crickets. I've definitely been through several of these phases already. But no matter what the current numbers are, it's the effect on the people you do reach that really makes it worth it, I feel. Some of my lesser watched videos have some of the most beautiful comments from people who said that was the video that helped them get back into art or to believe in themselves. And those are the messages that really stick with me. It hits me in the feels because I've been on that side. I still am. As a self-taught artist, YouTubers were and still are my teachers. It's sort of a full circle experience, being the apprentice and the teacher. And when you go viral, it can make you feel like this shiny object, kind of like the girl in the painting, this center of attention. Even if the reality is, you're still just a student yourself figuring things out. I see my whole art journey in these three characters, where I've been, where I am, and where I hope to be someday. When I was updating my version of this painting into the 21st century, I decided to swap out the vanitas objects with objects that symbolize rebirth and the cycle of life. Phoenixes, lotus flowers, and Ouroboros. And I wanted to keep the overall composition of the piece very similar to the original in my attempt to say a lot changes in 400 years, but a lot stays the same. Hello?
Hey, I'm just calling to check in on my competition. How's it going with your remaking art battle?
It's going great. You know, I was checking out my competition and I saw that everyone is super talented. So I was like, I really gotta push myself creatively on this one. So I really thought outside the box, or perhaps a bit inside the box.
When we first were on the initial call, I think all of us were a bit confused about art from the 1600s.
Wait, is Da Vinci from the 1600s?
Now that you've had a chance to do some research, how are you feeling about this time period and using it as your reference point?
One thing I noticed when I was looking into this century was that there's so much symbolism. There's a lot of like multi-dimensional stuff going in, and the more I dove into it, the more I discovered. And I was like, you know, how am I gonna just shove a deer like into this whole situation, you know?
Yeah, how has it been working with those prompts?
It was a challenge for sure, but you know, I think when you're given a challenge, those are the times when you can really get creative and do something really cool. So I had a fun time trying to work those in, and I think I figured out a pretty cool way to incorporate them. My first idea for including the deer in this piece was to replace the little ox statue on the shelf with a deer statue, but then I learned that it was most likely meant to refer to the ox of Saint Luke, who is the patron saint of painters. He's kind of staring down at the scene like a protector. So I kept that, but kind of made it chibi because that felt more modern. And I'm glad I didn't have that simple way out for the deer, because after some thought, I realized that the hanging tapestry was a perfect opportunity to make this piece interactive and hide the deer behind it as a mural on the wall.
Oh my gosh, this looks so cool.
Little did I know that curtain wouldn't be so simple. So I happen to have this fabric which I thought might make a good tapestry for the artwork. It's super thin and it's brown with blue and orange. So in the original painting, the tapestry seems to be held up with these loops on string, and I happen to have these eyelet pins. I think I can actually like poke this like into the material here. So I'm thinking one pin can go here. Oh no, I dropped it. Yeah, I think it kind of worked. I was real excited about this whole fabric tapestry idea, but no matter which way I tried to put it in, it just didn't look right. Something about the texture just made the whole piece feel tacky. So I decided to pivot and try a different idea. I have unearthed something to potentially use. This was sent to me by a viewer 7 years ago. I had like 500 subscribers at this time, and a guy reached out after seeing my book Zig's Journey, and he was like, I have this cool journal, but I don't really know what to do with it, and I have a feeling you'd do something really cool with it if it was in your hands, so can I send it to you? And I was like, huh, okay. Little did I know, said journal was a freaking giant tome. They sent me a picture of it before they sent it, but I missed the scale in the photo. I thought it was like a small thing, and it was like a Lord of the Rings tome over here. It's so cool. It's made out of leather, has real gemstones and metal hardware, but I honestly felt kind of bad for accepting it because I think the person may have like wanted me to do something with it, like turn it into a book or something. And the paper is very thin. It's like almost like newsprint, you know, this kind of like old style pulpy paper, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it, and I felt bad. I think the person's name was Michael. There was this note inside. Zaccura, I can't wait to see what you do with this. Very excited. Best wishes, Michael. Well, Michael, it only took me 7 years, but I'm doing something with it now. I am so sorry, Michael. I don't know if Michael is still around here, but thank you, seriously, thank you so much for sending this. It's the coolest thing ever, and I've kept it all this time, always thinking that I was gonna do something with it. But now I'm actually thinking this paper might be kind of suitable for making the curtain. I'm thinking of tearing out one page and seeing what we can do with it. This paper has a texture that reminds me a little bit of fabric, so I thought I might be able to achieve the real-life tapestry look I was going for. But I quickly found out that this paper must have been forged in the fiery pits of painter's hell. It absorbs liquid like a sponge and starts pilling and shedding at the mere sight of a wet paintbrush. I totally ruined this first attempt, but I figured it was due to having no plan on what I wanted to paint on it. So for the second attempt, I did some digital thumbnailing first, but nothing was looking right. Y'all, I thought I had this curtain thing in the bag. The deadline was approaching. Your girl was panicking. Until I thought, what about a shell? So I imported this photo of the inside of a spiral shell. You know, that good old Fibonacci pattern. And lo and behold, it was exactly the kind of pattern I needed. Still though, even with a reference, this perdition of a surface was just too hard to paint on. So I hit it with some clear gesso, hoping that would help stop it from absorbing everything. And while that dried, I finished up some other final details, including that all-important real seashell. Yes, we did not forget about that. In the end, I decided to only use one tiny little shell because I didn't want the shells to distract from the rest of the painting, and using just this one as a replacement for those hanging plaster faces felt like the perfect subtle wow factor I was going for. Also, I kept the foot because I just love the foot. I mean, no matter the century, I feel like artists are the only people who can legitimately get away with having a realistic severed foot hanging off the side of their shelf.
It's for reference, okay?
Not gonna lie, I could use one because I'm always afraid to put that into Google. The gesso really was the savior for this curtain. It was still not a pleasant surface to paint on, but it was workable and we got it done, folks. But I still didn't like it. Something about it didn't feel cohesive with the rest of the piece. It was just drawing so much attention, and I realized it was because it didn't have any shadows. And according to the lighting of this room, the bottom of this curtain should be in shadow due to the characters in front of it. But did I really want to paint that shadow and risk destroying this curtain and having to try again? No, I really didn't. But it had to be done for the quality of this piece. This competition is stacked, can't cut any corners.
I know on some of your content, what makes some of your content really cool is that when you make a piece of art, a lot of times you'll research the entire history about what you're creating. And this, I think, plays a lot into that.
Definitely, I did a deep dive into the painting.
I think we got it.
I think it really helps to get that connection to what it is that you're painting and what you're making, to really dive into like what was the context of it.
What do you think your chances are? You got this one in the bag?
Oh, I don't know. Everyone in this battle is like so pro. I feel like the amateur among the pros here. I just can't wait to see what everyone's been up to. I have no idea though. That's gonna be up to the fans and the viewers to vote.
Well, good luck to you. The final reveal call is just around the corner. And yeah, just like you, I can't wait to see what everybody made.
Nervous! I'm so nervous! Oh, 5 minutes until the call and I am just... I'm so nervous. Okay. I had some fun surprises up my sleeve for the final reveal, but turns out I was not the only one who did. Be sure to watch 1000's video to see what everyone else made. I'll have it linked below. My mind was so blown. It is a must-watch video. But despite everyone bringing their absolute A game, somehow... Oh my gosh. Guys, apparently I won. What? How? Was it the song? It must have been the song. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And before I show the final shots of my now winning artwork, I gotta pack some orders because y'all, I was putting off work while I was working on this art piece. It was all consuming. And while I do that, I just want to say, if you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe and hit that thumbs up as it really helps me to keep making more. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, consider giving a super thanks or grabbing some merch from my shop at Zaccura.com like these awesome people did. I'm an independently funded operation, mostly from my wonderful customers and channel supporters. You guys are the reason I get to do this and I so appreciate it. It all goes back into making fun content for you guys. But of course, a free way to support is to just share this video with a friend. It really makes a difference as well. Okay, enough peddling. Time for the final reveal.
There it is. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it's done.
I used this shell shard that I really liked to replace the Puddle Baby, but I ended up leaving it out in the final reveal call because I felt it made the piece look a little tacky, like it was giving gift shop vibes. But at the same time, because of the potential significance of that Putto, I feel like I should put something, but I'm just not sure what. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions and maybe I'll put it in. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and much love to 1000 if he's watching. You're the best, dude. Thanks for always being an inspiring leader who's bringing artists together. And huge shout out to Pape Ink and Felix Schlater, whom I had the honor of getting to know through this challenge. I'll have everyone's socials in the description. Go follow them all, please. They deserve it. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya.